Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Max Spoilers, this time for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Hello. MinnMax is a place about games, friends getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. If it sounds weird, if it looks weird, that's because we're doing this in person. Can you all think of another episode of Max Spoilers that we've done in person?
I mean, we did Mandalorian Season 1 in person in 2019.
Wow. Okay. Good pull.
And Rise of Skywalker, we did that in person.
Oh.
So we're mostly talking pre-pandemic stuff.
Jeez, that is wild. That's the voice of Ross, Star Wars Guy Fund, also joined by Brian Vore in the studio.
Yellow.
Straight from the theaters. We just scurried out of that theater straight into this basement. Haven't looked online. I didn't even look to see your faces to see if you're going to be smiling or frowning walking out of that theater. So I have no idea what anybody else thought about this. But these are spoilers, everybody. Full spoiler cast for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So tune out now if you haven't seen it or if you care in any way about it. But Ross, you're right. I am fascinated by that person that cares enough to listen to this, but doesn't care enough to see the movie. I have been that person, like consuming other people's spoiler casts, so I understand it a little bit, but it is a fascinating thing. But here's the thing.
Don't you watch like only 20% of blank check movies or something?
I bet, man, yeah, it is rare that I will watch a blank check movie, but I listen to every episode.
You're not one of those maniacs that puts it on like 2x speed to watch to get through a movie.
No, but I'm not opposed to it. You want to hear the worst thing I've ever done?
Yes.
Keep in mind, I'm a film major, Ross.
Yep.
I realized a while ago, it was when Last of Us Part 2 was coming out, and there was some interview where they're like, there's a reason we're calling it Part 2. And I was like, oh, this is going to be like a Godfather Part 2 structure. And I'm not a big Godfather guy, but I watched the first one like in college or whatever. It's just like, I got to watch Godfather Part 2 before I play Last of Us Part 2. And I watched it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to set this on YouTube to 1.75 speed. And watched about 10 minutes of Godfather Part 2 that way. And then it just said, I can't do it. I can't do this to myself. Even though I consume all media at 1.75 speed, I had to bring it down. I had to bring it down to a layman's 1.0 speed to watch one of the greatest films of all time. And you know what? It was good. It was worth it. I'm glad I did, I guess.
You know, when you said, I want to hear the worst thing I ever did as a film major, I thought you were going to say buy tickets for a movie on the wrong day.
I don't know why I got to bring that up, dude. I genuinely mess up all the time. I always try and tell people, my wife knows this, I am a dumb person. I mess up everything constantly all the time. And I was like, hey guys, I'll get tickets this time around. Normally you geniuses tackle it, but I'm going to get tickets for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And then let's go to the theater. And I genuinely had a moment where I was getting my phone out and opening the email, walking into the theater, where I thought to myself, I didn't mess this up. I have the tickets on my phone. We're good to go. And then they scan it. It's like, Yeah, sorry. This ticket was for yesterday, sir. Oh, God.
The Drax of MinnMax over here.
That's right. I'm the only one who doesn't hate myself. So then it worked out. We rearranged it. We still got food. We had to carry some food and beverages into the theater like schmucks, but look, I messed up, but that worked out okay, right?
Hey, we would not even be recording yet if we were watching the movie at the normal time.
That's right.
That's right. Saved a half an hour.
That's right. Here's the thing, everybody. Thank you for watching this on YouTube. You can help support MinnMax by going to Patreon. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. There. It's not time to drink. It's time to plug, everybody. What do you reach for? You can go there. You can unlock the podcast version of this discussion, every other Max spoilers, our commentary tracks for the Star Wars prequels, Advent Children, The Matrix,
Jurassic Park,
Lord of the Rings, Jurassic Park. Unlock all those commentary tracks. Also the podcast version of The Deepest Dive on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that we're going to be doing. If you don't want to watch that on YouTube, you want to unlock it on your favorite podcast app. Again, that's patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Greatly appreciate it. They did it. They released this movie that in theory is supposed to come out years and years ago before James Gunn was fired and then rehired.
How strange.
What a long saga just to get to this. And like, I wonder how much he rewrote it. I feel like he's talked about it a little bit in interviews, right?
Yeah, it's good that it was not connected to the wider Marvel universe in any way.
Right. Well, there was that weird beat where he said in interviews like, yeah, thank God that Taika kind of took care of Thor being with the Guardians of the Galaxy, because like my script did not account for Thor being in there, so it worked out very well for Thor 4 just to have Thor and the Guardians only being there for like the first mission. It was like, all right, see ya, and everything's how it was.
Yes.
End of story.
Except, yeah, that weird Gamora thing, which they kind of go into, but not totally.
Here's why I shouldn't be talking about Marvel on the internet, because they set it all up. They do a good job, I think, of like resetting everything. But certainly in the start of that movie, I'm a nerd. I've seen every Marvel movie, and still I was like, what is the deal with this Gamora again? Is this okay? So it's not a different, it's not a different multiverse version of Gamora. It's the past Gamora. So it's kind of the situation Loki was in before he watched the films of himself in the Loki TV show. So just that matter of like reframing, like, what is this? Is there any chance they get together? And so like, if I'm struggling to remember where Gamora left off and how she ended up here, I'd have to imagine, what do you think, 70% of that theater was confused?
Yeah, I guess those events did happen in like two of the most popular movies of all time, Infinity War and Endgame.
Right.
So if there is any chance that people will remember it, it's probably high.
Yeah.
She was like died with the Thanos cliff in that.
Right.
Yep, Infinity War.
And then, but we didn't get anything like, hey, past Gamora is coming.
Well, then
like
she was
showing up post credits or something, or
She was involved in Endgame for part of the movie, because remember, Peter Quill sees her during the final battle and he's like, hey, you're alive, and she knees him in the nuts twice.
I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
one for each nut. They made a real point of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I forgot about that as well, and this is why I probably need to watch Endgame again. But I think you're right. One of the most popular movies of all time, most popular 2 movies of all time. But I still think like people love that movie, but I don't know if the average consumer has the intricacies of timeline and multiverse all worked out in their heads. I mean, case in point, not that this is everybody, but at the end of the movie, spoilers, everybody, it says Marvelous
Star-Lord.
The legendary Star-Lord will return.
That's right.
Yes.
And the person sitting next to us said, who is Star-Lord?
Oh, no.
Somebody brought their grandpa and he was very confused.
And then his wife's like, that's Chris Pratt. That's the main guy we've been watching the whole time.
The guy who was literally just on screen before it faded to these words.
Oh, good. Where are you guys at with this movie? What'd you think?
I liked it. It was probably maybe tied with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I just rewatched 1 the other day, and that still holds up pretty well. This one felt a little long to me, and then you got to the final half hour and it was fantastic. That's what I thought. Like really, really strong, like third act and ending.
See, I like this one, I think, more than 2. As much as I love Kurt Russell, it's just a lot of, I remember getting a little bogged down in 2. But then this one, I enjoyed so much more than I thought I would. Except I had that flip of like by the third act a little bit like, all right, getting a little long here. I get it. There's definitely some cool moments. Like the Beastie Boys, action scene was great. But still, like the part that got me is when he was like, and now here's the swarm of enemy freaks coming out of the ship and coming into the other ship like a bunch of sperm or whatever. Like I don't want to fight another giant swarm of nonsense enemies. It's just like we did this in Wakanda, Infinity War. Like it's my least favorite thing in a Marvel movie is, okay, you have a bad guy, but then what if he has 1 million of small minions? Like, okay, then I don't care about anything. I'm sorry. But.
Yeah, I think for me it was the hallway action fight scene that was like very comic booky and just one of those things where you just have to like, how did they plan this out? Like, how long did it take to composite every possible thing they filmed for this to put together? There's so many cool, crazy moves.
Yeah, like when Quill like puts a little bombs, little electricity grenades or bombs, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Setting it up.
Yeah.
Right on the guy's butt as he goes by.
It's so nice good. Moments. You just know it's going to pay off really well. And then you get silly faces for everybody. It's like, it just works, man.
And the bug lady did like a little like swing around on Groot's arm.
Yeah.
The poison Hurricane Rana. That was nice.
Yes. She always lands like on a neck snapping way whenever she's falling from a height.
Yeah, it was a good recurring bit. That was one of my favorite things of the entire movie is like so many moments of just pain had real impact in this movie. And for like big, fantastical CGI space spectacle film, it's like, God, I still felt so much more than, I don't want to just, punch down on this one, but like compared to Quantumania, right? Where it's like everything's CG and I never felt a thing. But like there are just moments in this where it's like, God, I feel it. I feel so many things. Like the Mantis's arm snap in the beginning. One of the most brutal things I've seen in the MCU. Or like when Peter when like the ship's coming and he's trying to pry that ship out of the bad guy's skull as he's underwater. I'm like, this is wild. Or even just like small little moments when they're in Fleshtown, USA, and there's just a bad lady, and Gamora just like shoots her in the leg, and then she's like, and she's just screaming. It's like, God, even that shot has more impact than I feel like most fight scenes in Avengers for me, really.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
even Nebula when she gets all busted up, even though she's an android and she'll fix it, it's still like, geez.
Yeah, like her head hanging backwards on her neck.
It's weird that she's just like full nanomachine suit now. She just has the arm that can do anything. It feels like that's the evolution of every Marvel character. Eventually it's like, I don't know, just nanomachine particles, and it's all fantastical nonsense.
Yeah, it was interesting to see both her and Drax get like a tank top now to like really cut down on all the makeup time, and like Batista didn't have to be like in ridiculous shape and miserable the whole shoot. So,
oh, that's interesting.
Like he didn't pop that shirt off once.
Fully covered up, yeah.
Yeah.
Please go easy on me. I mean, I feel like there's so much, maybe since the firing, where Batista's been talking about like, I think I'm done with Drax. Let Drax retire. I'm done. I really thought that he was going down. I thought other Guardians were dying in this movie, and there were so many fake outs. Like there's that moment where, which we can unpack later, of like Nathan Fillion like shooting Drax in the back a couple times. I'm like, is this gonna be how Drax dies? Just getting shot a couple times? Like, that'd be so lame.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's nice to have some stakes though when you know it's James Gunn's last Marvel movie,
right? And
you know that Batista's done with it now. Essentially, it's nice to be like, oh, maybe he might not make it out. Yeah, you get a little more drama out of it that way.
Did you think Quill was dead in space at the end?
I kind of did. I had seen Chris Pratt say something like, oh, yeah, it would have to be the right director and all that, but I'd be interested in coming back. But you're never sure if that's a fake out or not, right?
Yeah, true. And it's like they could do a prequel or something like that. Like it got me. Like when his face was fully inflated big, I'm like, maybe they did it. Maybe they really did.
Are they going to blow up the hero's
yes,
head?
Yes.
To really just make it real.
Yeah, but that's a cool impulse to be like, I don't know. Maybe they could.
If someone's going to do it, it'd be James Gunn. Like, the Suicide Squad, super gross and brutal.
Right.
Peacemaker. Yeah. He just knows how to make an impact, whether it's to gross you out or make you laugh or, like, all the sentimentality throughout the movie. Like, he knows how to, like, press the button of your emotions as you go through the movie.
He really does. I thought the perfect way to write Drax out. He's just out there being a dad, as like the dad vibes got me really strong on that one.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yep.
And that's
wait, hang
on.
Which part? When he was talking to the kids in
when
the
he's
language?
Talking to the kids
and like dancing or whatever?
Yep, cheering him up. You're like, I figured that's where it was going because that the Nebula and Mantis are just like yelling at them and they're crying. And Drax is like, you knew he was a father. That was like a big part of his backstory and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the delivery was great, especially because he was doing robot moves instead of a monkey thing, which was a delightful touch.
A little Arrested Development, like, that's a chicken? It's like, okay, but the joke still works. It's fine.
Yeah. And then at the end, when they're like, oh, you were meant to be a dad, not a destroyer. Great little moment.
That's a nice way to kind of end his storyline. Yeah. It's like everyone's just going to be on nowhere doing their own thing. I was surprised by human emotion. No, surprised by there were a lot of tears in that theater. I don't know if you were looking around, but there are a lot of wet eyes around there. Oh, wow. Like the rocket stuff slayed in that theater. And like even myself, sorry for being heartless, but it's like, okay, this seems well done, but I'm not really affected. I got it. But then like there's that one shot of when the otter just like puts her arm out and like stops Rocket from dying. It's like, for some reason that's like, I went from 0 and I was like, God damn it, you got me. That otter put his damn hand out. Oh.
Hey, that was Linda Cardellini, right?
Was
that who that was?
Yeah. So they scanned Earth and they said, who's the most beautiful woman here? It's Hawkeye's wife.
Yep. Yeah.
We need to scan her, and the High Evolutionary said, take her voice and put it in this otter. And put it in the cage.
I had mentioned something to Ross right in the beginning because her name was in the credits, and I was like, what's Hawkeye's wife have to do with this?
Yes.
But I'm glad they were able to use her because she did a great job and it didn't stand out in a weird way. And she did a great her voice.
Yeah.
And the rest of that crew is like basically just Sid's toys from Toy Story. You know, it's like the exact same like spider shot coming out of the shadows. But yeah, I'm on board. Show me some weird things.
Have you guys ever heard of or read a comic called We 3?
No.
It's from like familiar. 2004 or something. It's by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley. And it's just like a single graphic novel, but it's like animals who are cybernetically enhanced, like trying to escape or whatever. And it really made me think of this. And they're both fantastic in their own way.
The moment they came on screen, did you guys think that any of them would survive at all?
No.
Absolutely not. I was like, this is... Yeah. I saw the most reaction I saw was people talking about, I cried so many times during this movie. And as soon as I saw those animals, I was like, oh no, this is where it's happening.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. I think that is, not to get nitpicky, because I did enjoy the movie a lot more than I thought, and I enjoyed it overall. But it is weird to be like, okay, so the theme is like, all life matters, these animal matter, let's respect everybody. But then there's still like, they got to do the joke of like Mantis opening up a cage. It's like, woo, this one's a freak. It's like, what? And then like, we went through all this way to save those animals at the end. And then the final hero shot is Rocket just like shooting down like herds of these creatures. And they trying to have some line for like, oh, don't you feel bad about it? He's like, well, gotta save the villagers. Anyway, watch me be cool and murder all these creatures.
Time to slaughter animals.
Yeah, it's like, what? It's a really weird note to have be the final shot of this whole damn thing.
Yeah, they could have gone and maybe robots. I mean, that you don't have to feel for them. Or, I don't know.
Put a few raiders on the back of those animals, you know?
Yeah, some Ravagers, something like that.
Complicit beasts.
Yeah, I think that's the way you gotta go. The weird creatures, high evolutionary. What'd you think about him as a big bad?
He was fine. I like that actor.
Yeah.
What do we know him from?
That's what I was trying to remember.
Oh, okay.
He has a face that looks very recognizable to me, but I can't tell you what I've seen him in. But I want to shout out the makeup job on his skin face.
God, I looked at that so much. Like, where's the seam?
Yeah, it looked perfect, didn't
and
it?
Especially like one of those flaps falls down later. And it's like, oh, you can feel the rubber. It like, I know that device.
Just like the jiggly. I was like, oh, that's gross.
Yes.
And then they took it to 10, made it 10 times worse.
Yep. It's like when, like, you know, the third time that Quill's like, it's not a trap, it's a face-off. I'm like, okay, they're going to have him be like, face off, and do the full face-off thing. It's like, wait, no, but he doesn't know the movie Face Off, so he couldn't do that reference. But they still were setting it up, I think, enough by actually ripping the guy's face off in a different way.
By saying face off 30 times during the movie, it was really, really locked in there.
But that was a messed up face. I know it's like, it kind of just looks like Two-Face from Dark Knight. Is it really that twisted? But I think there's a lot of scenes in this movie where, and I think a lot of the MCU, we're at this phase where it's like, we're getting into the scarring children territory. Like, there's going to be a lot of nightmare fuel for kids. With that shot of his messed up face and he's talking, it's horrifying.
Like, his teeth are showing and he's got no eyelids.
Nose totally gone.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't help these days, but every time I watch a movie to think like, okay, would my child possibly be able to watch this anytime in the near future? And the answer is no on this one.
You gotta wait for
a lot of different reasons.
Gotta wait for 12 maybe, I think, before this one will work out. The James Gunn aspect of this whole thing. Like, I've been kind of down on James Gunn recently, but look,
because you're such a Marvel fanboy and you hate that he went to DC.
That's it. That's right. He stabbed us in the back, us true fans. No, but I think I just get the vibe, and I think I talked about it on Party Chatter bonus podcast a fair amount. But like with Peacemaker and even like the Guardians Christmas special, and even Suicide Squad, I just feel like, I don't know. It feels like a first pass at a script. It feels just kind of a little sloppy. The jokes are fine. It's effective. There's good shock moments and stuff in Suicide Squad, totally. But like, I don't know. And so I went into this a little bit skeptical, but it totally got me. I don't know what it is. It's like, is it just a matter of like better execution on these jokes? But like, I thought this movie was so much funnier than his scripts have been in a very, very long time, at least in my mind.
Is it because he had 7+ years to refine them?
Compared to like episode 3 of Pacemaker, like, I don't know, fart joke, dick joke. Okay, got it. We got it here.
Yeah, my opinion on this one is that it comes down to when a director gets a little bit more power, maybe, and they don't have to edit things down to be as tight. So more jokes get left in, so you get more B-level jokes and maybe some C-level jokes, and not like just the A-level jokes.
Okay.
That's my thought on that.
Yeah.
Because I do think that his scripts are pretty polished generally. Because what I think about James Gunn is that nobody does a setup and a payoff better than him.
Yeah.
Like in this movie with Drax saying he doesn't dance, or the raccoon thing, or anything else, the good dog thing,
the grandpa thing.
Yep. Things that like are set up throughout the movie, starting at the beginning, and then even when you can see them coming a mile away, like the good dog thing, like like Sean Gunn is gonna call Cosmo a good dog sooner rather than later. Like you see it coming, but it just, there's something about having a clear setup and a clear payoff that really works, and I think he does that in everything that he does. Like going back to Guardians 1 with the Star-Lord payoff, where Korath is like, it's Star-Lord at the end, and he's like, finally,
Totally, yeah. The Cosmo thing, I'm trying to remember, since you just watched one, because isn't Cosmo in like the collector's thing? Does it
good memory?
Thank you. Is it kind of look the same? Does it feel like it fits still?
Yeah, having just watched that, I would say almost exactly the same.
Oh,
maybe
really?
if you have them side by side, they'd look different, but a lot of it comes down to that spacesuit. So
okay, that's good. And then the other thing that just lore wise, I was trying to wrap my mind around is like, okay, Nathan Fillion is in this. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Guardians 1, isn't there a poster where he's Wonder Man, and it's like on the background in like the Nova HQ planet, wherever that is called?
I don't remember that one.
God, I thought that's what it was. Okay. And it's like teasing like, oh, is he going to come in as Wonder Man? But now they've cast, I think, somebody else as Wonder Man for that TV show that I don't think they've formally announced, but it seems like all the press is at least talking about it.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So now Nathan Fillion is just weird soldier in a flesh suit flying around, and that's
doesn't
where
like his coworkers.
That area was super weird. Did it give you guys like a Dune vibe somewhat?
Maybe a little bit. I was thinking more Zerg
animation?
From StarCraft.
Okay.
I just couldn't get over how stupid and great those meat suits were that they were. Nathan Fillion and the other guards or whatever were wearing. Just like meat. He's just wearing it.
I loved it. I thought it was a really cool idea. And then like part that killed me too is when they're like getting the cube or sphere or whatever that has the data, yada, yada, yada. But it's like the filing system, and it's like just like the weird flesh flippy to like grab that thing and bring it back down. I was like, that's such a cool, weird sci-fi idea. And I feel for that. And them actually like navigating just the UI for the city and stuff with the weird fleshy pods. And it's like, again, not to tear it down, but I immediately thought of like, oh, compared to like Quantum Mania, where it's like, hey, Michael Douglas, fly this ship, shove your hand in this weird thing, whatever. Whereas this is like, oh, somehow this captured my imagination more than the quantum realm is zany. Moving on,
Yeah, you could feel it sticking into that control goop.
Yeah.
You just like, I know what that feel is, like viscerally, like I can imagine it.
Yeah.
God. And they just like pluck the rocket's little info cube out of that goop, and you're just like, carrying that around. But it's like,
it is weird though that like this script was conceivably written a while ago, and then it also has kind of fleshy world, kind of like Quantum Realm. But then also the part that struck me is like, oh, this has some similarities to like Thor 4, and this script was written probably before the like Thor Love and Thunder, but just like, okay, just having that theme of, well, obviously having the kids is a big part in the end, like we got to save all these kids, woohoo. But then also just kind of the recurring theme of like, hey, these gods not so good. Whereas Thor is more like all these gods have got to go, right, with the God Butcher and stuff. But then for this one in particular, it's interesting just having the high evolutionariness theme. Having in a Marvel movie when he just looks at the camera and says, there is no God. It's like, and then I need to become one, or whatever his rebuttal was to that. It's like, okay, they're working with some of the same themes. And then I thought it was so bizarre, but sure, I like it. Hey, I like the Bible, but like just how many biblical things they tried to squeeze in like by the end. Were you all picking up on that?
Fill me in. I got almost none of that.
Okay, Genesis.
Yep.
First, there was the earth. I don't know how in the beginning. That's how it starts. No, but when they're like bringing people from the one ship over to the nowhere head, Like,
the Ark thing, or
it's very Noah's Ark. They literally say when they're bringing the kids over, they go one by one as they're bringing them all over. And then there's that scene where Adam Warlock saves Quill in space, and of course it's Adam, right? Yeah. But they literally do the finger touch move as he's grabbing him
with his bloated face.
Right. And there's another one too where it's like, oh, they're just going full on biblical for this, which is a weird angle, but it's interesting. Sure.
That's also like a weird coincidence coming so soon after Mandalorian season 3, which was super tied into like traditional Jewish stuff.
Going to the homeland, reclaiming the land, Zion, all that stuff.
I saw a video about that really got into it, and I can't recall most of it, but it seemed very convincing.
Yeah. By the way, we didn't do MX spoilers for season 3.
Oh, really?
Believe it or not, we didn't do it, but spoilers for Mandalorian season 3 in the middle of this.
I'm not ready for that. Property.
Okay, you guys said you were the coolest yet on the seasons, but still enjoyed it. That was the read.
Yeah, I still love the show. It was my least favorite season for sure. Like a few of the big things didn't hold together as well as I thought, and I probably chalked that up to rewriting after the Rangers of the New Republic show got canceled.
Okay.
So I think they had to incorporate some of that stuff in here.
Like just the town being built up. I'm trying to think of like...
Yeah, Moff Gideon escaping off screen.
Right.
And then a lot of like, New Republic backstory type stuff. That there's that whole episode that was really showing what the New Republic is and some of the problems with it.
Yeah.
And all that.
Oh, like when they were doing like the reforming of former Imperials.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still torturing them.
Right.
Kind of and stuff.
By the way, in that episode on Coruscant, maybe I'm out of my mind. Maybe it's on the internet now, but like for a couple weeks after that episode, I was like, well, it's crazy that no one's commenting on like Phil Tippett had a cameo on Coruscant where he was like a magician. He had like a dragon thing. Oh, and it's like a quick cutaway to it.
It was some other guy from historical ILM.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh. You know this?
Yes.
Because I rewound it. I'm like, oh, I think it's Phil Tippett. And then I was looking around online and I couldn't find anything about it. I'm like, how does the internet, who just rings everything of The Mandalorian, not talk about this?
Yeah, it's not Phil Tippett, but it's probably somebody he's friends with.
Really?
Yes. Yep.
Did you notice this? Did you just knew it?
No, I didn't know it. I read it somewhere.
Oh, okay. So it is online somewhere. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll be damned.
Easter egg rundown.
Yeah. But there was that cool Phil Tippett Mad God like monster eyeball thing, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Not that I think he did anything with that, but it was just a cool Phil Tippett inspired thing.
Phil Tippett inspired thing. Yeah.
Put that one as by.
By the way, I gotta go, Jeff. Just to let everybody know, I feel like we need to set the scene maybe a little bit more for the level of Star Wars dorkery. No offense. I mean, with compliments.
You've been calling me the Star Wars guy for years.
Yeah. These guys have read, Ross has read the book that takes place between Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. They've read how many of the High Republic books at this point?
Pretty much all of them.
How many is that?
Close to 10, probably.
Jesus Christ!
But some of them are pretty short.
I think it's more than 10.
What?
It feels like it's more than 10.
Okay.
Maybe 15 plus?
Can't be more than 15, right?
But the kicker is they say they're all bad. And they keep reading High Republic Star Wars books.
I know there are a lot of High Republic fans out there, and I don't want to anger them.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. What do they see
It's
in
not for me as much as it is for other people, I think.
What do they see in High Republic that isn't quite there for everybody else?
Yeah, I'm interested in this perspective as well.
That's a great question. I think they like a world where there's no movie characters, no pre-established characters other than Yoda.
Okay.
And theoretically anything could happen. My argument is that not much does happen. There could be a lot more that happens with that setup.
And the idea is they're just kind of saving everything for the Acolyte TV show. And that's when they can kind of kick it in and, hey, here's Sith now. Look at this crazy stuff.
Yeah, like they're not doing Sith stuff because of Acolyte. But I think, this line of books and this storyline, which is probably 80 years before the Acolyte or something like that.
Okay.
It's going to wrap up with its own, with all its own characters and stuff like that. So it's not like there won't be any kind of resolution.
Yeah.
But, it's got a long way to go to win me back into it, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's not like there aren't surprises like Game of Thrones style, like murders. but they just are always introducing new characters, and at some point you just can't tell any of them apart.
Okay.
And they're just kind of like waves crashing against the rocks. It's like, that Jedi's dead. Okay. I don't even remember what they're made. Like sometimes they have like, there's one right now that has a shield, and like sometimes they just have like, one has like a whip, lightsaber. So like,
remember me for my whip.
I'm the whip lightsaber one.
Yeah.
And like, other than that, so hard to tell anyone apart.
Yeah, they could do a lot better job of differentiating the Jedi characters, particularly, which is like, 80% of the characters.
They all have the same brain. They're all like turbo dorks that are always about following rules. And if one slightly gets out of that mode and breaks the rules just even a little bit, I'm just like, oh, finally something different.
Some character. Did you like Mandalorian season 3?
I did. I mean, I enjoy the, Mandalorian's out there. There was all that confusion in season 1, right? Of like, what's this talk about? Don't take your helmet off. Like all these other shows, they're taking their helmets off willy-nilly.
Like Clone Wars?
Who cares? Yeah.
Okay.
And to be able to kind of explain that over time, bring everybody together, and then we get to not only see Mandalore, but we get to see them, a huge force of cool armored people all work together to take it back and slowly rebuild. Isn't this like your Civilization PC games where you can build it back up? And
Mandalorian season 3 is like Age of Empires. I never thought of that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
It's something they had to do, but it obviously they set it up to kind of bring it back, hopefully, to just Mando and Baby Yoda. And
I hope so. Yeah, I don't want to be too.
Or it's just over forever. I mean,
yeah, it felt like a series finale to me.
Right?
Actually,
but then they said that like they could keep going forever with this story. I feel like it didn't.
Favreau said that he has written a 4th season. So you have to assume that that's getting back.
By the way, he said in press reports and interviews, he said he spent 4 hours writing the scripts on this one. So look out.
He had a writing assistant credited in the season, I believe.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so that doesn't surprise me either. But yeah, overall, some things didn't hang together quite as well. And for me, like season 2 is just like my favorite Star Wars thing other than the original trilogy.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, what's better than that?
Just for the Luke stuff?
I mean, that was great. But the whole season I thought was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great episode after great episode. It like expanded the scope so much from the first season.
Like more than Andor, you like it?
Yeah. I mean, Andor is great in a very different way. But I love Mandalorian because there'll be an entire episode about a giant bird that like takes kids and flies off with them.
Right.
And they got to climb up to the nest, and there's little baby birds that are going to eat the kid. It's like
it feels like Clone Wars. It feels just kind of like silly adventures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a Clone
action.
Wars adventure here, but probably 10 times more expensive.
Yes. Yeah.
And my favorite part of that episode, by the way, is that the bird flies off with the kid, and the Mandalorians are like, "Oh man, it happened again."
Son of a gun!
They keep taking these kids. There's nothing we can do.
Get out of
Our
here.
Our jetpacks don't have enough fuel.
Yeah,
they were just ran out willy-nilly, but like I'm monitoring every jetpack fuel level from that point on. Every other mission, I'm like, seems to be lasting pretty well
Did
for
not
this
come
thing.
into play.
not irrelevant. Yeah, I don't want to be too down on it because like I think that art is awesome. Like the design team for Mandalorian, I want to kiss them. I think all of that looks incredible. I feel like the scripts are like beyond first draft. Just like, I don't know. And then they say this is the way, and then they say what's that, and then they look. It's just like, other than the line "this is the way," I don't think there's personally been a single impactful line or, dare I say, interesting line in all of the Mandalorian.
It is very utilitarian dialogue.
Yes.
Like almost to a fault, even more so than like George Lucas dialogue, I think. Which is saying something.
Because it's not especially funny either. And like, say you're talking about Lucas, but I mean, New Hope's really funny. Like there's funny stuff in those movies. But it's still like,
I think Baby Yoda gets to be a little bit of comic
there's some
relief,
physical gags. That's true. That's
The
true.
yes, no.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a joke that they're
baby's first mech suit.
That's right. They had to do it. But yeah, I think it's just this problem of like, for Mandalorian, and we'll get back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but it's just this problem of like, what I personally don't care about Mandalore. I don't care about reclaiming it. I don't care about the factions. I care about, and I'm sorry to be so simplistic, I care that the helmets look cool. I think Boba Fett looked cool, and I like jetpacks. Mm-hmm. That's as much as you're getting out of me, and I like Star Wars. So this idea of like the different factions, the Mandalorian, like at a certain point, you know, I remember listening to another podcast where somebody just brought up the idea of just like in all of season 3, I don't know what Grogu and the Mandalorian want at any point, which is, you know, writing 101. I get it, but it is just that conundrum of like, yeah, what are we doing? Like, we're just kind of attaching our wagon to, we need to reclaim Mandalore. It's like, I don't care about that at all.
Yeah, I think a big idea that I don't think came through for a lot of people was two different, like, belief systems. People who are largely the same but have two different belief systems coming together and understanding each other. And I think
a little bit like America, Ross.
Yeah, a little bit like America. If only we could all decide whether we want our helmets on or off.
If that was the biggest choice we faced.
Yes. Because Bo-Katan and Mando at the start of the season are both like, hey, you're not a Mandalorian, you're not a Mandalorian,
right,
blah, blah, blah. And then they have a couple of adventures together where they like see each other's strengths and stuff, like the first one below the surface of Mandalore, and then the ridiculous episode with Jack Black and Lizzo,
right?
Christopher Walken.
Right.
My biggest disappointment of the season, by the way, that Christopher Walken did not get to finish.
Christopher Lloyd.
No, Christopher Lloyd.
Sorry. Thank you.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Just to be fair, you do love the 80s, and you gotta go, dude. You gotta leave. What are you doing?
At first, I was like, am I wrong? No, was he in there as like voicing a weird alien or something?
Ross, king of the 80s, cannot be doing this.
Yeah, my biggest disappointment that he did not get to finish his speech about the politics of Count Dooku. I was ready to hear more of that.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
That's good stuff.
But yeah, that episode got us more into like Mando and Bo-Katan like teaming up and overcoming their differences in a lot of ways. And I was disappointed that it just ended with him giving her the Darksaber on a technicality. That was like,
yeah,
that, you know, I wish that had kind of been resolved earlier in the season, maybe, so there could have been more drama surrounding it, because it was a real letdown that he was like, well, guess what? A few episodes ago, I got beaten up and she beat up the person who beat up me. So it's cool for her to have it. But yeah.
What'd you think about
Why didn't you give it to her then, Mando?
Yep.
Why didn't you do
Come
that?
on, Mando. What'd you think about R5 having jetpacks secretly the whole time?
Somebody must have fixed those up, because they got to be past warranty by now.
It's funny. I feel like, was it episode 2 where R2 has the jetpacks for the first time? And I feel like everyone's like, oh, okay, that's so lame. And now R5's flying around it. I feel like no one's batting an eye. Like, well, of course. I mean, the dumbest droid of all time. Of course, he also has super cool tech hidden away. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. That was fun to see him get attacked by those little mouser droids.
Right.
He's so scared of them, and they can do nothing to him except knock into him at 3 miles per hour.
Yes.
It's just it's the further evolution, or de-evolution, high evolution, if you will, of just like the absurdity of Star Wars. Of like, if I would have pitched you Mandalorian season 3 in the 90s and would have been like, okay, there's a TV show and it stars a guy who looks like Boba Fett, and then there's like a little version of Yoda, and they fly around in a ship, and then R5 is their navigational droid.
Yes.
Like, this is absurd, but I think I'm on board for it.
Yep, the baby Yoda is driving an IG-88 from Empire Strikes
That's
Back.
right. That's right. It's just so absurd.
Speaking of that, though, like, we're at Guardians Volume 3. If we're okay to go
What
back
is
to
this
this
guy
movie,
talking about?
Yeah.
Can you conceive of this movie just coming out of thin air? Like, Guardians 1 was such a weird, unlikely hit. And just thinking of like what we're watching now, like a robot raccoon origin story in
Right.
space. But it all makes sense to us now. It's just like common and given.
Yeah, speaking of nobody batting an eye, like, you know, it was crazy when Iron Man became a big hit, when he was a B-tier superhero. Like, you know,
Right.
everybody who read comics knew who Iron Man was, but nobody really cared until that movie came out. And then to go from that to Guardians of the Galaxy, where Star-Lord is like a E-tier superhero that probably a lot of people who read comics had never heard of before.
Right.
And just that he's like, you know, a big hero on par with movie Iron Man now, or the other Marvel heroes that have gotten so popular is just unlikely and crazy.
Yeah. And now they can go back and say, actually, Rocket was the star of the trilogy the entire time, which I know James got an interview that has pushed that idea, but then to actually have it explicit from the Heaven Otter. You were the star the whole time, my man. It was all about the raccoons. No, it's weird that it can hold. I mean, it made a theater full of adults cry, and it's just a raccoon talking. I mean, it is bizarre how far we've come.
Did you like how they pitched up Bradley Cooper's voice when he was Baby Rocket?
That was fun.
Yeah.
I think that was fun. Am I projecting too much? Maybe I've just watched too many interviews about the Super Mario Brothers movie, but I just feel like Chris Pratt feels tired. Every interview I hear him in, I kind of get sad and depressed. And I know I'm sensitive to actors and their terrible interviews, but like, I was then projecting that back into this movie in a way where I was just like, man, he felt so energetic and new in that first movie, and I feel like in this movie, it's not like he's phoning it in. Like, he's still landed most of what he was going for, but always in the back of my mind, like, especially during like running scenes, I was just thinking like, he doesn't want to be here, man. Like, his mind's elsewhere. Let him go. Let him stop doing it.
Tired is a good word for the box office. I thought I saw some bags under the eyes.
Ooh,
and just you're like, the energy level was down a little bit.
Yeah,
part of that has got to be the character, right? Because
he's been through a lot.
He's in a real rough spot at the start of this.
Yeah,
but
I do like that he referenced that in that. Is it an elevator scene where he's going through just his situation of like, you know, and then I lost my girlfriend and she's back, she's a dick, but then also I almost got half the galaxy or universe annihilated because of Thanos, because I lost my temper and all that stuff. So it's fun to have a rundown of like exactly everything that he's been through up to this point. It is pretty bananas.
Yeah. Hey, was No Sleep Till Brooklyn also in the Mario movie? It was, right?
It was the opening platforming scene. Yep. Yep. Much better use in this movie than just kind of like, I don't know, just throw it under the Mario movie. It'll be cool. Okay. What was the grandpa stuff? Are they just setting up for a potential TV show and it'll be cheaper because it's on Earth?
Wow.
Or the part that kind of clicked for me a little bit was in the credits. It said like, in loving memory of James Gunn Sr. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, so he lost his dad. I know he referenced that in talking about the Superman movie that he wrote and directed. Because he's like, oh, it turns out we're launching the movie on the day on my dad's birthday, I think. So that's in the forefront of his mind. I'm like, okay, maybe that's where that's coming from, is just trying to reconnect with this old father figure. But then also that's kind of what Peacemaker's about in a weird way. What do you think is going on there? Also, the simpler question, who was that guy? I was waiting for like, what 90-year-old actor are they going to have at the end of this movie? It was like Clint Eastwood? Who could they possibly have? And it's like, oh, it's somebody who looks vaguely familiar that they put a lot of age makeup on.
Yeah, it's just a aged up version of the guy from the opening scene of Guardians, I think, right?
Oh, really?
Because he was in, having just rewatched that, I remember that now.
So he's the same guy.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's the same actor.
They mentioned that something about like, oh, he yelled at me before my mom was murdered or something.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you for just watching that. Greg Henry, I guess, is him. Well, I guess it's better than, if they try and do something else with him and then he just, they can't cast too old of a guy in the MCU.
Right.
Because you never know when these people are going down.
You need him around for the next 30 years.
Yeah, but what do you think? What are they doing with that? Why the grandpa stuff?
I think like everybody had some piece they were missing, and his was like, not wanting to go back to Earth and like face all that painful stuff, even though he's so revered it pop culture wise. But yeah, I think it just gave him a place to be and someone to connect with.
Sure.
Like, that grandpa's could still be alive. He seemed very with it.
Just to have mentally something. Yeah.
But this whole time, were you guys thinking like, how does he do? Because he's done so many good ensemble movies. He's able to take characters that no one cares about at all and kind of make them into a fun team and like, get them on your side. He kind of gets almost like a blank slate to work with. Whereas there's so much baggage with Superman for that movie he's making.
Right.
And there's one person that people care about, and then you have to like, I guess he's going to have interesting people around him.
Yeah. But what you're saying that
not like a Justice League. I mean, that'll happen, of course, down the road. But
yeah, what, Jimmy Olsen isn't a riveting character for you?
I mean, there'll probably be a funny guy. Who's Sean Gunn going to play in the Superman movie? That's my big question.
Man,
he'll just be Weasel again. It'll be the opening scene who Superman has to fight when he's learning.
God,
I don't know. Stop me from being too negative, but the Sean Gunn thing, I can't help but think about it. It's just like, just the nepotism idea of like, we just give him a bigger and bigger role every movie. And now in this movie, like he has a good chunk of this movie whistling around as Craiglin. It's like, God, he does a fine job. He does an absolutely fine job, but it's always just like, there's surely thousands of actors who have a little more charisma than this guy. Like, or am I just too up my head thinking about like him just forcing his brother into that role?
You do want to bring in the Gilmore Girls fan base, so.
Oh, is he big on that show?
Yes.
Oh.
So.
Oh, well, maybe I'm wrong then.
No,
he earned that Gilmore Girls role.
All right, man. All right.
No, James Gunn was nothing at that point, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
He was writing Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. I was also surprised at how much Sean Gunn was in like the first 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
In his like union suit or whatever that was, it looked like.
Right.
And then, yeah, he did come back strong at the end. So I was like, oh, he's in this like quite a bit. But then he was gone for like 2 hours in the middle of the movie.
That is true. Yeah. Also, it was really cool to see him like pilot Nowhere. That was sweet. When he's like, man in the cannons, cannon level 3, cannon level 4. I'm like, oh, it's like cool, like giant nautical warfare in space with a god's head. I'm like, this is something new in the MCU. I haven't seen this. This is awesome.
Yeah. There is still that dead god on the North Pole or whatever from Eternals.
They haven't talked about that once. Nothing's referenced it, have they?
No one's even flown over it and like...
I don't think so, unless it was on TV in some other Marvel show.
I can't remember, like a news clip in the background or something.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, maybe in a newspaper or something.
Yeah, I don't remember that though.
Speaking of flown over, I mean, we haven't talked about Adam Warlock yet.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about Superman every time that he's like flying and punching people really strong, like.
But I really got a kick at him. I love that, like in the opening especially, his move is just flying really fast and just crashing through windows and grabbing people. Like even that shot, like when he flies through and grabs Rocket the first time, it's like, God, that is so impactful. It's such a cool looking, just little action moment. I liked him. Like it wasn't the knockout star maybe that they were hoping for, but like I thought he was great. And I loved just that basic premise of, was it Mom that references like, oh, you were pulled out before you completed, or maybe the High Evolutionary says that.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, he's not just like the all-powerful being that he is from the comics. He's kind of just
naive.
Yeah, and he has a huge chip on his shoulder about the mom stuff. Like, I think it's a cooler role for Adam Warlock other than... Did you guys play the game?
Yeah, I did play it, and I liked him a lot in the game.
Yeah, but he's very much like, he only speaks in poetry, and he's all-powerful and this type of thing. And so I think, like, humanizing him a little bit more than that role, which is my main point of reference, I guess, I think works out well.
Adam Warlock, the game? What game?
No, dude, Brent, the Guardians of the Galaxy game from 2021?
Yes, there was that.
Dude,
I gotta play it. I've heard good things.
It is really good. I mean, it is exactly Uncharted meets Mass Effect with a slight notch down on budget. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's a B+ game that feels like those two combined. But like, I really loved it. The more time that passes, I look back on that more and more fondly.
Yeah, it's incredible how well...
I was wondering how you knew anything about Adam Warlock.
Well, I read some Infinity Saga nonsense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, which is weird to bring him into the MCU and not have it be Infinity related, which got me thinking about the timeline of when this movie... But I think this movie would have come after Endgame regardless, or not?
That's a good question.
Because I'm like, how do you bring in Adam Warlock and he had like the soul?
Well, now he just has a piece of granite on his head. You know, it's like, what is that? Like,
it's a Tic Tac.
It's stuck there. He flew through a wall a little too hard and it just got stuck right there.
So it's normally in an Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of like how Vision in the MCU would have one in his forehead.
Is he a robot, Warlock?
No,
I don't think
he's
so. One of those people that
the High
Evolutionary
created him in this movie, And in the comics, I don't really know.
But he created him, but he's not a robot.
Right.
That he created.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
And Eternals are they robots?
Those were robots.
Okay.
I do believe, right? Yeah. Sure. I think that was like they told that
we're all
like
robots in some way.
60% of that way through that movie.
Yeah. It's just like I need that Terminator thing where it's half robot face and half human face, so I know there's a robot on it.
Right.
If you just tell me it, I'm just gonna forget.
Yep. And then Adam Warlock had his little dog buddy, this weird little creature buddy. He was like, okay, that's a nice way to humanize him, so he's not just monologuing to himself when he's out there, and you got to show him become good and all that stuff.
Did that creature reminded you of like the cats from Star Wars?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
It also
cats.
reminded me of the thing from Shang-Chi that was like didn't have an eye. Or didn't have,
that was hanging out with Ben Kingsley, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like, it's kind of just you need your baby Yoda in every movie now, and sure, I guess they can sell plushies of that weird little toy. So sure, there it is.
Yeah. Another character in this movie, I don't know the character's name, but how insane is it to get Sylvester Stallone in your movie and to only have him deliver like space exposition?
Yes.
Is incredible. I loved it.
It's really odd. Yeah. Also, I was just confused. Oh, never mind the spider just crawling around the wall.
I noticed that a little earlier, and I've been keeping tabs on him.
I'm a bit of an Adam Warlock myself, and I was lifting weights over there earlier today on the weight bench.
Yep.
And there was a spider slowly dropping from the ceiling. I'm like, do I need to stop doing this? Is the spider going to keep coming down?
You just open up.
Oh, God.
Sylvester Stallone, it was fun to have him in this movie, but yeah, it was just, okay, he just gets to be the father figure for Gamora. That's kind of cool. It's like, you should bring him back after he's in volume 2, just that little bit. That was 2 compared to 1, right? Yeah, I think that was 2 that he was in. It's kind of fun. I was just confused about like, okay, we're going through the different layers of the Zerg town to get inside, different barriers, blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, then the Ravagers are here. I was really confused, like, why are they here? What is happening? Then it's just that Gamora was going to get the money, so they were just meeting them on the 3rd layer inside of this. That structure of like where they interacted with them, I'm still confused about why there.
That's a great question that I don't have any answers to.
I know you don't. That's fine.
They were just coming to pick her up. She was just like, come get me here.
It feels like there must have been some cuts or some rewrites or something. It just felt like that's such a weird spot to interact with them. But yeah, he's doing all right. It's nice to see him, not just being bitter about the Creed series. He's doing something with his life.
Have you guys seen Tulsa King?
No.
That's his TV show. It's he plays like a criminal who just gets out of prison after 20 or 30 years, and he gets sent by the mob to Tulsa to be like out of the way, kind of.
Okay.
And he's just like, instead he's like trying to become the kingpin of Tulsa, sort of.
And it's good?
It's not that good. But,
okay.
But if you want a lot of Sylvester Stallone doing Sylvester Stallone, you can find it in Tulsa King.
Okay. I don't know if I need that in my life, but
you might not.
It's good to know that technically it exists there. Let's see.
Is it funny or is it a drama?
It is mostly trying to be funny, I think.
Oh, okay.
With some drama.
Okay.
And there's a few laughs in it, but yeah.
Did you guys think of Secrets of the Ooze at all during this film? It's been a long time since I've seen the TMNT movie, but just the idea of like, okay, just the idea of like, all right, we're taking creatures and then just rapid firing, aging them and making them super smart.
Yeah, when the turtle got aged up to being a humanoid teenager, you can't help but think of
it's exactly
Ninja Turtles a little bit.
And then like when they go to the ship on Counter Earth, which is such a bizarre idea, but I do kind of like it. I was on board for that as a weird concept. But when they go there and then like the people stopping them, it's like big kind of turtle guy and then like warthog guy or like pig guy. I was like,
War Pig.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, like Chris Pratt's absolutely making a Bebop and Rocksteady joke. It's just countdown to Bebop and Rocksteady. Were you thinking the same thing?
Yep.
It's like, it just feels set up for him to make one of his classic Star-Lord references, and no, not in the final cut at least. It's great. I'm happy that Marvel maybe has moved beyond it,
Did you think
he did do the RoboCop insult?
He did do RoboCop.
That was cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Did you guys think there was going to be a when pigs fly joke when High Evolutionary was like, and now I can control gravity. War Pig, go flying away somewhere. I was like, is this where we're going? And it didn't happen.
It's called subtext, man. You're supposed to think of these great concepts that they're dealing with. I was confused about when they're like, oh, high evolutionary quadrants of the universe consider him a god. It's like, what? Who? Why? Like, there are so many powerful people all over in the Marvel universe. Like, this guy, because he can move things around, and he created freaks.
He created a whole civilization, and
seems like he usually blows them up.
Well, I mean, that whole planet of Counter Earth he did blow them all up eventually, but
maybe there's other pockets that he let grow
that he hasn't gotten around to blowing up yet.
I mean, he probably had to have. That probably took some time to develop.
Yeah. And I guess like the whole, the Sentinels? No, not Sentinels. What are the Gold Race or whatever, the Adam Warlock
Celestials.
People. No,
not them?
No, the Adam Warlock people.
Sentimentals?
The Sentimentals. Like they might look up to him and think of him that way. I don't know. Let's see. Other things we haven't hit yet. I like those moments. There are a couple moments in this movie where it was like unclear, like, is this supposed to be emotional or funny? And maybe that can be seen as a downfall. But I'm like, I think it works for kind of being this nebulous space. Like, there's that scene where Mantis was talking to Drax, and also Nebula. Was it Nebula? And just talking about like Drax kind of being a dumb guy, but like I referenced earlier, she's like, oh, I like you. Like, you're the only person in our crew who doesn't hate themselves. Like, I love that about you. But yeah, you are kind of dumb compared to everybody. And then just be like, all right, and forget all that. And it's like, you can read that, and like the theater laughed, but it's like, I don't know if that's supposed to be funny.
It was a little dark, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting, weird scene.
Without consent is
right. Yeah, and she was like, oh, I never do that to my friends, like earlier in the movie.
Oh, right.
Yes. Another thing, I mentioned the dad moment before of Drax. But also like the moment where High Evolutionary realizes that one of his creations has like surpassed him. Right. And that's why he becomes obsessed with and hates Rocket. Yeah. I'm like, it's only a few years until like our kids are saying something, like correcting us on something that we didn't know. And I've got to remind myself not to react how the High Evolutionary did.
Just be cool.
Yes.
We are what they grow beyond.
Yeah, exactly.
As Yoda
I appreciate
once said.
that.
Yeah.
We have to also reference the Groot line. Yeah. The big shocker.
Oh, God, I forgot all about that.
I love you guys.
That was so weird.
Do you think that like part of the audience we were with did not like catch on that was Groot saying that?
I think they've reacted.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I was off kind of in the corner, so maybe I couldn't hear the reactions as well.
I mean, people were
insane.
They weren't hooting and hollering. I think it was kind of like a hey kind of tone in the audience.
It's interesting that the characters weren't just like, oh.
Yes.
Right. Maybe they didn't even register because they're so used to translating all the time.
Or do you think something else, since they didn't react, is the audience, now that do we understand Groot as an audience now?
I wondered if that was the case too, yeah.
That's a better idea. I like
that's
that.
What happens, that had just happened with Gamora, right? She just finally understood him, through context or whatever.
Right. You think Vin Diesel's agent finally was like, come on, give this guy something to do.
For every new word he says, you have to pay him another $1 million.
Right. And then they can use him as a more interesting or more dynamic character, or more of like a classic character, if they ever come back with Guardians and now that new team with Rocket leading it, and then Groot, and then you got Adam Warlock, and then who else was on that?
Phyla was a little girl.
Oh, Phyla?
That's the name of like a Marvel cosmic character, Phyla Vel.
Okay, and then Cosmo. Yes, the other one.
Sean Gunn was on there too.
That's right.
Kraglin.
Do you think that team can carry a film?
I don't think there's any plan to have it do that. And if they do eventually get around to another Guardians, I think they'll bring in other characters too.
Yeah. But also, like, they probably will want to do something with Adam Warlock over anybody, right? But if he's a Guardian, that makes it messy. Like, you can't just pick him out that easy. Well, I guess you can.
Solo show. Yeah. What if it's a TV series? That I can see more than a Guardians 4.
Expensive. I hate to look. We're all movie executives.
Keep it on
us.
budget, Hanson.
No, but like, I don't know, you hear so much about like, you know, how it was a struggle even for She-Hulk of like, it's a pretty expensive show. And like, if you got Groot and Rocket, like as the starring characters there, that's pretty tough.
Is it just like imagine their great adventures, happy ending type of thing?
I don't know. Seems cleaner that way. Maybe they don't even know, you know, just leave it somewhere that's interesting.
Yeah, it could be something where they move into animation or something like that at some point.
Yeah.
Fold that in.
Could work, yeah. All right, other beats we missed? Is that Guardians 3?
I just want to say, how would it be if you were living in a city where a crazy raccoon controlled the playlist on the loudspeakers? Dark days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was so interesting, even early on with like Radiohead, where Rocket's just like started singing along. Like at first, like, wait, is his mouth moving? Okay, now he's just full on singing. He's embracing this, but I guess if he's going to become captain, he has to get really into the music. So, yeah, that would be weird. There's a lot of music management in this movie of like, I'm listening here, now I'm transferring to these speakers. Now this is going over here. Now Gamora's hearing this, but not this, you know. So that'd be like weird.
And the whole community agrees on what song is good. They're like,
that's what I'm saying.
The new Radicals.
How did Ross get control of the speaker?
Like, it's so annoying when someone is like, when someone takes over the Bluetooth and like no one is, unless it's completely innocuous, like there's always going to be different pockets of people annoyed where.
Right.
But that's the most unrealistic part of Guardians.
And imagine it's coming from another alien civilization. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Weird alien music.
Yeah, but then you just get to see them all talking. It's like, yeah, it turns out Garth Brooks is the best, as I talked about in the end. And people are talking about Peter and Nebula's relationship.
Ooh, yeah.
There was a little something there.
I liked how they resolved that, or where they left it off with her acknowledging it to him.
Yeah.
And saying, I bet we were fun. It was something
that's Gamora,
like that.
But they were talking about Peter and Nebula.
Oh, Peter and Nebula, sure.
Yeah. Because there was just that little bit of like, this, it's like, maybe not. But at least I think that was a good level of like opening a door a little bit. But the Gamora stuff, I was worried about that. I'm always worried about that I'm always worried when they don't respect like people being different. You know, it's, I guess, I'm trying to think of what an analogy would be. But, you know, I like the idea of this version of Gamora is just like, no, like that, I'm not her. But then even by the end of the movie, she's like, maybe I'm halfway her. You know, it's like, okay, but still they went their separate ways and that's fine. I feel like.
Yeah, she seemed to like kind of get, it's like, I can see how this could have come together originally.
Right. But
and
like,
I like this group of people.
Yeah.
She respects how cool he's able to like blow things up all the time. Like, that seemed to get her, you know, smiling.
And then on his end, he, you know, having her like acknowledge it was kind of enough for him where he was at the end of the movie. So I kind of like that he came to peace with it himself as well.
Yeah. So, you know, if they continue this storyline and he ends up with Gamora or he ends up with Nebula, I feel like it's, either would make sense at this point, even though Nebula would be a bold move, probably more fun move.
Yes.
More interesting.
Although there's plenty of women superheroes on Earth now where he is residing. So maybe he'll be popping up in some other movies in an Earth capacity.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, maybe Star-Lord will just return outside of the thing that they tease at the end. Maybe he'll just pop up in other people's shows. I'm trying to think. He'll be in Moon Knight Season 2. I don't know, but it's weird to think about that. He's just, that could be fun for him.
Yeah.
A whole new avenue.
That would be fun. He's got to have some little tech in his backpack, right? He's not just going to be like, well, civilian now. I have jeans and a jacket.
Yeah, he's got the guns at least.
Yeah, he definitely brought the ankle rockets with him.
You know what? This made me think ankle rockets, but also the little tap of the head and the face helmet. That never happened once this whole time.
That is weird.
And that would come in really handy when he was stuck in space.
It's more handy than just the tube that he used to like launch himself a little bit. Yeah.
That's to the point where I'm like, did that get broken in a past movie that I don't remember?
I'm thinking about like, Thanos grab it and squeeze it?
Yeah. Was it just ripped and it's like, oh no, the blueprints are gone forever.
It's a unique piece of tech.
Yeah, I mean, with Rocket out of commission, no one was there to build it, repair it maybe. By the way, the Rocket thing, did I miss like when he got his major damage inflicted? I felt like it was like, I don't know, Adam Warlock grabbed him and all this stuff, but there wasn't like one scene or one like point of impact that was the damage, right? Did I miss something?
Yeah, I had the same reaction where I was like, oh, it seemed like he took normal superhero damage where you got tackled and then...
Right.
You know, and I was like, oh, I guess he's really injured now.
Yeah.
Like, is there an additional zap? Does he have some kind of laser power?
I think so.
Maybe he got a bonus zap after that push.
You're saying he got that bonus zap.
But that could be thinking of some other people he zapped.
Yeah.
He did zap a good amount.
Like the Drax getting shot thing had way more, was like presented as way more of like a dangerous thing, and he was more or less fine.
Right.
Yeah.
It is funny how Drax and Nebula really take all the heavy damage.
Yes.
Like whenever there's a new weapon introduced, like they're always the ones like, let's shoot these two powerful ones that can come back from anything.
Yeah, we'll get it. I like the silly joke of pressing the buttons for the intercom system on the Flesh Planet, and then like the part that got me is like Mantis testing it out, and she just pressed the button and goes, "Hello!" Just for a second. I thought that was funny. Also, I like the joke. The theater was lukewarm on it, but I thought it was funny where Quill was like complimenting Nebula's eyes.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Like, my father tortured me by plucking them out and putting these in. He's like, well, I think he chose a great pair.
a great shade of black.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. But that one line was so weird. Where like they saw Rocket getting experimented on for like 4 seconds, and Nebula's like, "This is far worse than anything Thanos did to me." I'm like, he plucked out your eyes is the least we know. Like, what, they saw it into his brain? Sure. Like, but what could she have possibly seen that was just like, this is absolutely worse than anything I ever... I understand, like, maybe lore-wise and movie momentum-wise, they wanted to build it up, but, like, that struck me as such a weird thing for, like, he rebuilt your body!
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't think you have enough to go on to say that yet. But maybe it's an indication of her becoming more empathetic.
Yeah.
Which she kind of does by the end of the movie.
So
that's her kind of things. You know, she's so stone cold all the time. And then, you know, by the end, she's like, oh, Drax, I see your good side now. So maybe it's just a step along the way to that
could
journey.
Be. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys seen... I'm always shocked whenever I see the actor who plays Nebula in real life.
Yeah, Karen Gillan.
Just like looking like a normal person and... Just like trying to pick, like this time, like now that I've seen her more, trying to picture like the real person underneath and like, doesn't she have like a super heavy Scottish accent and everything?
I think so, yeah. It's a weird moment. Remember at Game Informer, I'm trying to remember when this was. Certainly, maybe when Volume 2 was coming out. At a certain point, we got contacted and they're like, hey, do you want Karen Gillan?
Yeah.
Do you want her to be a guest on the Game Informer show to talk about something? And it was this confusing thing, and I'm sorry, I'm not a bigger fan of her work, but they sent like her whole bio, and I was reading it, and I was like, oh, she's Nebula. That's crazy. And still, I was like, I think we're good. I don't really...
She's mainly Doctor Who is what people know from, I think.
That's what it was.
So if you're a big Doctor Who fan, I think you are a big Karen Gillan fan.
But I don't know. It was a weird moment of like saying, nah, I think we're good. And then just being like, turning down somebody that's like big in Marvel movies, but it's still, she feels so divorced. But I think maybe that's like maybe a nice spot for her to be in. She gets to be in some of the biggest movies on the planet, but not be a household name or face. Even like Mantis looks so wildly different too, that like she has like a cool role of like, she gets to be a star of these movies, but still not be bugged too much, you know?
Yeah, it's a nice spot for Karen Gillan to be in, where she gets to be in these big movies, but also gets turned down for interviews.
Yeah, and then she like said, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I said, Karen, this is getting out of line, please. I guess she was in those Jumanji movies too, right?
Yeah, that was weird to see. I saw the first one and seen it was fine, but I didn't hear much about the second one.
Yeah, it came out. I haven't seen either. I need to see it. All right, any other jokes we missed from this movie?
I'm glad you guys brought up the eyes thing.
Okay.
I think that in retrospect is my favorite joke.
I liked it too, but it definitely wasn't the biggest laugh in the theater.
Nope.
I'm trying to think of maybe what was the biggest laugh.
One of the times that Drax said something dumb, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
I do like how Star-Lord was immediately tipped off, like, wait, that was a allegory you just told me.
Oh, it was a metaphor, like, an analogy,
Yeah. It was like, immediately just like, something is off here.
Yeah, it was great. All right, that's it. Let us know what we missed in the comments below. Let us know what you think of this movie. You know how it works. Leave us a review, scale 1 to 10 for the movie in the comments below on YouTube. Also, let's see, people to mention in the chat, but we gotta mention, we can't end this without mentioning it. Groot's wingsuit was weird.
Oh,
He could just grow wings really cool. But that's great. That's all fun.
Building a glider and still going almost straight down.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of working a little bit, I guess. But all right, that's it. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll be back in the future with more Max Spoilers. What is Marvel's is next? For movies? Secret Invasion is next TV show?
Yeah, I think so.
yes. Yeah, because we saw the Marvels trailer before this, so that has to be the next.
Right.
Yep, I think that is the next movie. Yeah.
Okay, weird times. All right. You guys want to plug anything? You want to say anything? Get anything off your chest?
Uda Pills. You told me not to plug it earlier.
Don't plug it. No, that's the beer we're drinking. That's where we had the last community meetup. Oh, we're gonna have another community meetup here for MinnMax. If you missed this announcement, happening Friday, June 2nd at the Mall of America. Don't meet us in the Rotunda, but if you're in the Minneapolis area, come to Wisdom Gaming. It's the esports venue within the Mall of America, and a couple of us will be there. And also, it coincides with Summer Games Done Quick. And so if you're going to that, you're going to be in town for that. Come by the Mall of America. Come say hi. They have a restaurant. They have a bar. We're also going to be having some Smash Brothers tournaments happening there. So June 2nd, Friday, 8 p.m. Central, of course. If you're in the Minneapolis area, come say hello at Wisdom Gaming. We appreciate it. Anything to say, Brian? You got to wrap this sucker up. You got to close it completely.
Well, thank you for listening to us. And I liked going through like at least two spoiler properties in a go. So that was fun. Let's just talk about everything fun whenever we feel like it.
Yeah, really knocked it out.
That's it. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Goodbye. Bye. Did you know that you can more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax every single week by supporting us at the $5 tier on Patreon? You don't have to listen through the browser or anything dumb like that. You'll get access to a private RSS feed if you support us on Patreon. You put it in your favorite podcast app, and then bam, you can listen to our weekly bonus podcast, Party Chat, the podcast versions of The Deepest Dives, MinnMax interviews, Max spoilers, and you get the MinnMax Show podcast a day earlier than everybody else. So please help support independent games media. Head over to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's.